Get motivated with Mr. Smiles, Vinney Chopra. He is also known as Mr. Enthusiasm. He will share and challenge you each week on great topics on how to get excited, how to really make things happen in your business, and change your life for the better. Here is Vinney with this week's Motivation Inspiration.
Welcome to your weekly Motivation Power Talk with Mr. Smiles, also known as Vinney Chopra. My name is Alicia Debrell, and I get to interview Mr. Smiles each and every week. Mr. Smiles is pretty incredible. I'm sure if you guys have been tuning in each week, you know his story. He came to this country with $7 in his pocket. In fact, this month we did 2 shows, one about his humble beginnings. The second show we did was great. It was about his better half from when he met his wife. So that's great. If you really want to know more about Mr. Smiles, check those out, definitely. Also, if you want to know a little bit about the syndication business, you can check out his other podcast that we do called Syndication Made Easy, or go to on Facebook Live, the Vinney and Bo Show every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific. Yeah. Also, you can check out Mr. Smiles at VinneyChopra.com. He's always smiling and excited. Hey, Vinney, how are you doing this week?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you. It's a Friday and I had a great week. Looking forward to the weekend and some really exciting things. Thank you. How about you?
I'm good. I'm actually excited for the weekend too. It's been a long week this week.
Is that right? Yep. I think a lot of our audience probably who is watching or listening might say the same. And let's just talk about it. What's the topic today?
Well, okay. So today is, I think you're going to be excited about this one. So by the way, he never knows what I'm going to ask him about. So today we're going to talk about how people live their life in fear.
Yes.
I know this is something you'd like to talk about this a lot. How don't live your life in fear, and you don't, because you take it like if I throw a question at him or have a decision for him to make, or I see him faced with a decision he has to make, he says either yes or no. He'll take a situation, he'll evaluate it, and he'll say, okay, either yes or no. And then if he does have fear, he doesn't show it. Let's just say that. So let's talk about how people live their life in fear and what that does to them.
Wow. That's a good one, Alicia. Again, we could talk about living life with a lot of fear. And then maybe the opposite, maybe towards the later part, we'll talk about living the life without fear. I think, okay. As a matter of fact, one of my good friend, I had given out a talk many years back. I think it said no fear on the postcard or something. And I still have it in my desk somewhere in my office. But anyway, let's talk about, that is such a great subject, what you're talking about. Fearful as the human being, right? And we came from, the monkeys and chimpanzees and all, of course, we came from dinosaurs and all that age. And now lately we came from there. If we say that we are the only human being in the, of course, Earth, maybe Mars, we have some new Earth somewhere there in another, solar system. But the thing is, we have to look at who we are. Are there some animals who live in fear, or are there some other, species who live with no fear? Okay, I'm just more philosophical, also, as you can tell. The thing is that I look at it. When does the fear start? So my thinking goes back to when we are born. As a child, when we are born, we are fearless, actually. If we go back there, we just got out of the womb and, we got to cuddle and all that. And we saw the love and, we just saw all the things around us, and we were so tiny and everything was big. I mean, the refrigerator was huge and the almirahs and everything. But the thing is, we looked at bigger things in our life when we were young, growing up. And that gave us something to talk about. The kids are fearless. They really are. But as we grow older and older and older, and when the world, parents and relatives and friends put imposing, that's the word I want to say, they change our thinking from being out of fear into fear.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think also with children, they don't realize what can hurt them and what can't hurt them. So you'll see them, like my little one, when she, not long ago, she would go to grab something or hot or go to walk downstairs, and she can't walk downstairs, or she couldn't. And without thinking that that's going to cause pain, you know what I mean?
Totally.
As a parent, you're constantly doing that, but you also inflict fear out of little things that you wouldn't, you know what I mean?
I'm with you. I'm totally with you. What you're saying is correct because, as we grow, like from 2-year-old, let's just say 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, you can see them going all over the place, right? They can climb on this countertop in the kitchen and they don't mind jumping from the, sofa all the way down. They don't think about it or anything. They're fearless, right? But then, of course, they start understanding the world. And of course, we are getting bigger and growing up. That's when we really develop those fearful habits. And the instances that give us pain, or the instances that did not give us, what's the word? Like we are just limiting our beliefs, I think, could be another thing we could talk about, because beliefs make us either fearful or not living without fear.
Yeah.
But let's go let's grow up now. So we are in junior high school. A lot of fear comes from peers, by the way. A lot of fear comes from the circumstances. A lot of fear comes from different events that happen in our life. Some fear comes from darkness. Some fear comes from, us not really knowing the right answers. There are so many things, right? So let's just say now we are 17 years of age. This is high school now, right? 16, 17. And then you are a product of circumstances. We hear all that. So over there also, a lot of fears come in. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that. So we limit. I think scarcity, mindset, fear, not being productive, self-pity, low self-esteem, low self-confidence, they all come together, I think. Do you think?
I agree, and it creates a negative and fearful person, a part of a person. So people live there as an adult. A lot of people live in fear. And then there's people that don't, and some people that manage it. What do you think? Why do you think that there's people that live more on the fearful side than the people that are like more you and I? Well, I don't know. I'd probably say I teeter-totter on both sides. But people who more are on the fearful side than more of the not fearful side, or the managed side, because I think there's 3 sides: people who manage fears, people who are more positive, and then people who are more negative. So I think there's negative, managed, positive.
You're so right. Definitely. Again, as we say, the biggest fear that anybody has, probably, I think people say, is speaking in front of people is a big fear.
That's me. I can do this all day long. I can do this all day long, but you're not going to get me on stage talking to people. I promise.
Really? Yeah. That's something I've also heard, that the fear of height is a big one.
I'm fine with heights, but you're not getting me on stage without lots of Jack Daniels or champagne.
Is that right? See, so that's the biggest fear. You're right. See, the thing is then, we have to make a decision. We can live our life fearful, or we can manage it, just like you said, right? But how can we manage it? We don't really have to be a superpower to manage fear. I think the thing about it is that we should acknowledge that we are fearful of that situation. And then many of the people and psychologists talk about we should just take action. If we take action, for example, like, if some people are really fear of darkness, right? Some people are. So what we find is that if we take that step where you're able to stay at home alone in dark or all those things, we can overcome fear, we call it. We can overcome fear little time, but then guess what? The subconscious says, hey, it was not that bad.
I can buy a nightlight and be done with it.
Exactly. Action cures fear. I've read that somewhere, right? Or action will take you to the step, like, for example, coming skydiving, for example. I'm fearful, but I think with the training of the mind, if you say, what's the worst thing can happen, if there is a
skydiving, there are some bad things that can happen.
Yeah, there can, but you could go tandem. You could go. I know our son did that in New Zealand. It was amazing, and he got the photographer to take the whole movie. I thought that was interesting, and the best thing was that he did it tandem with a coach, with somebody who has done it day in, day out and everything. So that can overcome fear also if you can take somebody with you. If it's skydiving, I'm thinking bungee jumping is another one, where people feel, oh my gosh, what's the worst can happen is the rope will break, right? So you have to sign the clause and everything. But the thing is, if you are that kind of person, I always say, don't be fearful, be fearless and go for it. Bungee jumping, skydiving, or whatever it is, right? Or the fear of height, you could, try to live through it. But at the same token, it's okay to live with fear also.
A healthy fear.
Yeah, it's okay to live with a little bit fear, which is not impeding you. That's the word. Impeding your progress to live the kind of life you want to live. If you're really, really bogged down with a lot of fear in life, then I would highly recommend that you find ways to do certain techniques, some certain things, and so that you can overcome. Overcome fear is the other word, right? So we can overcome, even though I'm fearful, but I can manage and overcome it. Few instances that I want to be not as fearful. So let's just talk about a little other side. You have decided to live a life of no fear. Okay. Now, if you have decided to live a life of no fear, you're going to be amazed at how well you feel, how your whole attitude changes, your mindset changes. And even though you grew up with a lot of fear, by just making that decision, the worst thing can happen in life is death, right? One is death, accidental death or other death, natural death. And the second thing is, what's the worst thing can happen? What I do wrong, I'll be put behind bar. I'll be, in a jail, right? Then I'll ruin my life. That's the other fear, right? So what's the third fear? Oh my gosh. There are a lot of fears. Would my business grow? Would I be successful in front of my client? Would my investor invest? So there are a lot of fears in life. But the thing is, if we take care of certain small actions, that will take care of a lot of fears we have in life. Many times, we also live a life, I think, of fear of the future. Things will happen wrong. By nature, we are pessimistic people. Our mind always goes to the more negative stuff than the positive stuff.
No, definitely. And I think that's, and I think we've been trained to do that too. I think our mind is just growing up in the society that we have, at least here in the U.S., has been trained to go negative before positive. And if we can train our minds to be positive and to go that way before we go negative, I think we'd all be better off.
Surely, surely. And it's not easy. I want to say that.
No, it's not.
It's not easy. It's not easy at all. I mean, I used to be fearful when I was growing up. I was fearful whether I'll, make enough money to live and give good lifestyle. I mean, a lot of fears. I still fear some things like this week. We are closing on this property next week, and I'm fearful, would it close on that day or not? But then what do? You take action. You get attorneys involved, realtors involved, other parties involved, so that they can get involved to make sure the hiccups have been taken care of. I mean, there are a lot of things we do, fearful life, and living, but the shorter span we are fearful, the better it is. That's the other thing. Don't be fearful so long time that it just paralyzes you. See, that's the worst thing can happen in our life, is when fear can paralyze us and we are just downgrading ourselves and beating ourselves and feeling guilty of that fear. The biggest thing is that we talk to ourselves. I always say that, you got to be always having an appointment with you. Every week we should have an appointment, and I have my appointment in the morning, miracle morning, when I talk to myself and say, am I doing all right? Am I doing good?
I should remember to put that in my notes.
Yeah.
Talking to himself.
Yeah, really have, meeting with yourself. And I remember I used to put it on the calendar. I used to say thinking time. Sorry, that's what it was. I had appointment with myself, and I'll put it on the calendar, maybe same time every week, same day could be, not every day. I remember way back when I was in sales and marketing and motivation and all that, and then real estate and all that. But the thing is, you don't have to be a whole person every day. I say that. What do you mean by that? We are a whole person, right? But sometimes you have to just give your body rest. You got to enjoy. You got to smell the roses. You got to stop and smell the roses. You need to be happy. Wherever we are, we need to find the happiness in the smallest things. I remember the time I used to feel happiness with just having a small popsicle or whatever, right? Or an ice cream or piece of cake, or having Coke way early on in my lifetime. But the thing is, we are talking about fear, so let's just keep it focused there. Fearfulness is not good for our body.
No, it is not, and
It's not. It's going to actually, stresses come, a lot of negatives come, pessimism comes, and that's what we need to be careful about, because if you're not fearful, it's going to help us so much. It's going to give us a new rein on our life. It's going to give us more direction in our life. It's going to give us new purpose in our life. It's going to give us so much enthusiasm and energy, because if we are fearful, energy gets diminished. If we are fearless, we say, what, with no fear, I have no fear calling on that client. I have no fear of calling that investor. I have no fear of calling that broker. What's the worst thing he's going to say?
No.
See, that's the thing. We need to be always thinking, what's the outcome? If it's not death or going behind bar or not paying taxes, you have to pay taxes or you go behind bar, that way, by doing something wrong. And not doing right in the business can put you behind bar, business can go down, all that stuff. So those are the things that are consequences. So we want to shape our life with no fear, so that we could grow every day and do the best every day and see, the thing is, many times we say, you know what, I don't want to talk to so and so because they will feel this and that. They're going to give me this objection. They don't like me. They said that last time. I mean, we rationalize. We rationalize every day. We say,
I still gave up on that so many years ago when it comes to sales.
Exactly. Exactly.
I have no shame anymore. I'm like, I already know I'm going to get a no, but I really don't care, because if I get a no, that's just going to give me more reasons to ask you more questions. So let's go for it.
Totally. I mean, we could take that whole thing, what we are talking about today, living in fear or living without fear, into our business, into our life.
We could put that into another syndication one, like the overcoming objections thing. I also think that it's important for people to, I mean, it's okay to have fear, but don't fret about things you can't change. Yes. It is what it is at the end of the day. And I am not a person who can say that I am 100% that I'm good at this. I am not. Okay. I'm honest. I would be, if it is the angel, I am the devil. In this scenario.
I mean, I'm no angel either.
I am not. I will be honest and say that I am not the best at. I stress a lot. I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress, but
we all do that, Alicia. I stress also. I'm kind of positive and that kind of nature, but then I do stress, and I do feel many times, by golly, what's going to happen tomorrow with this. But then at the same token, being the CEO of our company, our life, you got to say, okay, what's the right action, right? What is the behavior you want from your team? What do you need to paint a picture of? See, once we concentrate on what we want to accomplish with our peers, our team, our leadership role, then our mind works that way. And God will give you. See, God always gives. I believe in that Almighty. I respect every religion. And I say that Almighty is giving us whatever situation He's throwing in your lap is for a reason. Now, many times, bad things we say, God, why you gave it to us? Good things you say, thank you, God. I think we should say thank you, God, to every situation. That's why I say, because it had to happen that way. Wrong, bad, ugly, good, everything. I have a saying.
You may not see it right away, but there might be a reason down the line.
That's so true. That's so true. See, many times, I mean, just in case in our car, we just had a hybrid car, and we gave it to our friends, and, they ran a little bit, but then it wouldn't start. And hybrid car, we found out that they need $3,500 battery in it, bigger battery, and $375 worth of another battery. Oh my God, this is the hybrid car, So we said, oh my gosh, that's $4,000 we're going to spend. Let's just sell it to our car care center, And yesterday he told us, we came up with a, figure and so forth. And yesterday he told us, hey, Vinney, and my wife, he doesn't think he needs to change the big battery anymore. Wow. So actually we took the price, of the smaller price. It's okay. But the thing is, we got to not live in fear. We just made a decision. It's fine. Move on. Right. But we were thinking about, okay, what can we do? What can we do to really, really make our life to live without fear? That's the key. That's what we want to talk about, And I hope anybody listening to us and watching us, you will look into your life introspectively and write it down on a piece of paper. What are you fearful about? And why you are fearful about those things? And again, you might say, it's okay. These fearful things, I don't care because it's not affecting my life. But these 2 or 3 fearful things with regard to my business, or visioning, or doing things or using time wisely or anything like that, right? Hiring the right people or, going to make some special directional changes in the business and things like that. We should not be fearful. We should make the best choice that we can make at that particular time and make that. Pull the trigger. Like you said, you mentioned it that Vinney, you are not always, you are yes and no. I can really decide very quickly yes and no.
Yeah.
Because, and a lot of other people do, they do, because the thing is, either you have a complete unison with the true north, like we did that podcast together, on the true north, when you have the right foundation, you know how you want to live your life to the fullest, it's easy to make decisions.
Yeah. No, I agree, and you definitely are, because you easily evaluate a situation pretty quickly. But I think that's your sales and marketing background, because I'm the same way. I'm pretty decisive. I think I think I'm pretty decisive also. But Mr. Smiles, I always like to finish off our podcast with my nugget of advice. So if we're talking about living your life without fear, and you had your nugget of advice for the week, what is it going to be this week?
Oh, sure. I would say, please, anybody who's watching us or listening to us, live your life without fear. And that is the one, no fear. Please put it on a little 4x5, small card or like that. Put it on your dashboard. Put it, where you shave or you get ready for the ladies, and just say, live life with no fear. Just say that. And by saying that, you would change your outlook. You will really see things happening and opening up for you, and your mind will be able to really live and give you less stress, and you'll be very, very happy when you have made that decision. What's the worst thing can happen? Like we just discussed in this podcast, just try your best to live without fear, and overcome your fear, manage your fear, but don't live your life with fear.
Agreed. All right, guys, you just got your weekly motivation power talk with Mr. Smiles, Vinney Chopra. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. Tune in each week to take your life and your business to the next level. I hope you guys have a terrific week. Mr. Smiles, thank you for tuning in.
Thank you so much.
Joining us this week. Thank you. Like he says, make it happen each day. Of course, I love it. Be sure to check out Mr. Smiles at VinneyChopra.com. The links will be below. You can apply for mentorship there, partner with him, or invest with him. Mr. Smiles, thank you. It was riveting as usual.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you for this morning. And we'll see you next week, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.